Hello, my name is Yura and welcome to another Baldur's Gate 3 build video. Into this video I will show you my Supportadin build, which will be a support-based paladin build that we're gonna use. It's similar to the Ultimate Support Ranger Cleric build that I made previously on the channel, and since we did with that, we also are using Shadowheart for our example here. As you usually see, she's the support in my party. So for our race, we are of course a half-elf. We get the standard racial speed of 30 feet per turn. We get the human trait, which is the civil militia. This is nice if you are a wizard, sorcerer, or a similar type character who generally doesn't use heavy armor or medium armor, because you can get your shields in the early game to get the 3+2 armor class. But for us, it won't matter too much as we are a paladin, so we have all weapon and armor proficiencies. We get dark vision, which is pretty useful, as of course we can see in the dark up to 40 feet. And we also get Fey Ancestry, which gives us advantage on saving throws against being charmed, and we cannot be put to sleep by magic. Now for our high elf cantrip, we're gonna go with light. This is just what I usually choose. If this is the main phase of your party, you could pick up the friends, but it's up to you, it's not really necessary. You could also take Booming Blade if you wish for damage, but again, this character will not be solely damage focused. I forgot to mention, but really any race can work with this character. Just pick your preference and go with that. It's not too much of a big deal. For our class, of course, we're going as a paladin. This is going to give us the Lay on Hands, which is a heal that we can either heal for 4 or 8 if we choose to use 2 charges, and it's going to scale with every level. We also get Divine Sense, which gives us advantage against Celestials, Fiends, and Undead for 2 turns for a bonus action. It's free, it doesn't cost us anything, and it replenishes on a short rest. And we also get the Channel Oath charges, which we use to use our Oath spells. Now for this subclass, we're going with the Oath of the Crown. This is the new subclass we got in patch 8, and I thought it was actually quite perfect for a support type paladin build. Because, for example, if you go with the Righteous Clarity, here our class action that is a Channel Oath action, target yourself or an ally to additionally grant the target's proficiency to their attack roll. So you can improve your high damage dealing allies' accuracy with this Channel Oath charge ability, which is pretty useful and pretty powerful. Then we have our Oath Tenants. It's nothing too much. I found that it's relatively difficult to break this Paladin's Oath by conventional means, or like attacking civilians and so on. So yeah, I prefer not to use Oath of the Crown if I'm going Oath Breakers. I usually go Devotion or Ancients. Those are pretty easy to break. But yeah, there's that. For the background, we're going as an Acolyte, simply because, well, Shadowheart is an Acolyte and we can't really change it. Normally, I like to go with the Guild Artisan, because it gives us Insight and Persuasion proficiencies, or Perception, or Persuasion. I just brain farted there. But anyway, that one is my favorite that I usually pick up, but Acolyte is just fine. Just if you have a favorite other one, just go with that. It doesn't really matter too much. For the abilities, we're going with a little bit weird one. We'll have 2 uneven ones, or how do you say it? But anyway, we're going with 17 Dexterity, 15 Constitution, 14 Wisdom, and 12 Wisdom and 14 Charisma. Now we're going with 17 Dexterity because this is going to be our main damaging or weapon stat and so on. It's going to give us armor class. And we want this to have high initiative, because I tried doing a build with low dexterity and high strength, but I didn't really like it, because I think with the supportive type characters, it's a lot better if you give them high dexterity so that they can cast their buffs on your party as soon as possible, rather than at the very end towards the initiative. So I opted for the 17 dexterity, so this will be kind of a dexterity based paladin support. Then 15 Constitution. Usually we go with 16, but because we're going to be getting a rather interesting feat, which will give us +1 to Constitution and give us proficiency in Constitution saving throws, we're going to go with 15 now instead of 16. Then for Wisdom, we are at 12. This is here to help us with the Wisdom saving throws. If we were to put it into Charisma, it would be uneven, so it wouldn't really be that much of a benefit, especially for our aura of protection. And of course, we can't go higher than that because we would need the bonus. So I think going Wisdom 12 is the best bet here, although you could also go with Strength 12 to boost your carrying capacity. Finally, Charisma 14, sorry. I keep mixing these two up for some reason. 14 Charisma. We want this nimble here because we won't necessarily cast our offensive paladin spells other than Smites, but it's going to help us with aura protection of +2, and we'll be increasing this later, which can be 16 or 18 if you're not Shadowheart. Of course, Shadowheart can't access Mirror of Loss, so highest we'll go is 16. But if you are playing with somebody else, some other character like a Tav or so, you can get this to 18, so you'll have rather good spellcasting in the late game for offensive spells, not only just supportive spells. Then finally for our skills. Now since we're a Shadowheart, we don't really have too much here. We do have quite high in all of these, so we don't need to worry about having proficiency in them. And of course, she's not the main face of the party. But our choices here are rather limited. Now thankfully we have inside proficiency. It would be great if we could get perception, but unfortunately we can't, so we just take medicine and athletics, or you could just take one of the dialogue skills instead of medicine, because medicine is quite bad. It doesn't really pop her too much, so I just put it in persuasion in case she ends up talking to somebody unintentionally. Alright, so at level 2 we unlock our paladin spellcasting and fighting style, and of course our divine smites. Now for the fighting style, you have two choices really. You can go either defense if you want extra armor class, or you can go with that is go with dueling for a little bit of extra damage, which this is going to give us. Now for the prepared spells, since we're going as a support, we want to take Bless, and we can take Protection from Evil and Good, and Shield of Faith, and also Heroism if we need to. There aren't too many enemies in Act 1 early game that can give you Frighten, and if you have a Bard or a Cleric in your party, they're gonna give you Calm Emotions, which is just a better version of Heroism because you can buff your entire party. But if you don't have any of those characters, or if they're not using those spells, Heroism is good here. You could also take various of these different flavors of smites. This is also not a mistake. You can pick this up. Command is going to be useful for us later when we get higher charisma. But for now, it's going to be relatively low chance to hit since we only have 14. But you can still use it if you want to try your luck. At level 3, we unlock our surplus features. So, for example, we gain Divine Health so that we cannot be diseased anymore. We also get the Turn the Tide, which is we shout and heal nearby non-hostile or non-enemy creatures, which is pretty nice since it's a bonus action. So we can use this after we attack or if we throw potions. We still have this as a big AoE heal that can provide Blade Ward and Bless to our allies if we have the appropriate equipment. And then also we have the Champion Challenge, which is, again, I think a great support feature for a paladin, because what happens is we challenge enemies around us, compelling them to attack only us, and any attacks they might have against other targets have disadvantage. So basically anybody that fails the wisdom saving throw, they will be forced to attack us pretty much. And then we get command and compel duel as oath spells, which is quite nice. Then we get an additional spell that we can prepare, and you could just take, for example, Wrathful Smite if you fight on a target. To keep in mind, of course, this is a concentration spell, so you would have to keep in mind not to break your blessing. You can also take Divine Favor, but it's not that good. It's a concentration spell that only lasts for 3 turns. So I'm just going to pick up the Wrathful Smite. At level 4, we get an additional spell we can pick up here. And again, we're just going to take another flavor of Smite. This can be useful against enemies that are weak to fire. There are some enemies in the Act 1 that are actually vulnerable to fire, and they don't get their special bonuses. What I'm speaking of is the wood woads you can fight. So we're going to take the Searing Smite for that. And then for our first feat, now, we could go with Resilient. This is going to be our second feat, Constitution. It's going to give us 16 Constitution, and it's going to give us proficiency in Constitution saving throws. What's going to happen basically is once we get our Warcaster armor, which is going to give us advantage on Constitution saving throws, it will be impossible for us to break concentration unless we take a very high damage roll, and then we have to roll more than 10. Because what's going to end up is you're going to have a +3 from this. We're going to have a +4 for proficiency, so that's going to be 7. And then with the equipment we're going to be taking and the shield, we're going to basically have, I believe, exactly +10 to our Constitution saving throws, which is going to be quite powerful. But we're going to do that at level 8. For level 4, we're going to go the usual route of Dexterity +2, so we get extra initiative, extra damage, and extra accuracy on our weapon attacks. Now at this point, or level 5, you can deal with anti-ethel and give this character Dexterity +1 if you don't want to give it to anybody else. Otherwise, 19 is going to be just fine. It's not too much of a big deal. At level 5, we unlock our extra attack and we unlock additional paladin spells, specifically level 2 spells. Alright, so for the equipped spells that I would suggest here, I recently found out, I don't know how I missed this, Protection for Poison is amazing if you're going for a character that likes to use the Stinking Cloud and Cloud Kill. Because what this does is basically going to make you immune to the effects of those spells. So it's really amazing for that, for casting on your party or yourself. So you could take this if you want to, or if you're facing the ghouls, which have the Stinking Cloud aura, this is going to be useful for that as well. Otherwise, you could take Aid or Lesser Restoration at Aid. which can help you against disease, poison, paralysis, and blindness. There is a fight in the game that can actually cause you to be paralyzed against the Flint, the Null Warlord. So less restoration can be quite useful for that. 8 can be nice, but it's only 5 hit points at this point in the game. You could still use it if you want, since primarily your spell slots will be reserved for blesses and divine smites, and all of the other spells will be used when you need them situationally, although you don't have to worry about it too much. So what I'm going to take here is going to be the lesser restoration. At level 6 we get our aura protection. Now for us right now it's going to be a +4. Once we get our build fully running, it can be a +2, it's going to be a +4 when we get 18 charisma, or with Shadowheart it's going to be only up to +3. It's fine, it's not too much big deal. Then for the spell that we can prepare, I'm just going to take the Branding Smite. It can prevent targets from being invisible, deals 2d6 radiant damage. It's less damage than the normal smite, but Branding Smite is still fine. At level 7 we unlock the Divine Allegiance, which is also a pretty nice one, because what this does is when an ally within 5 feet of you takes damage, you can use a reaction to magically substitute your own health for your allies, taking damage instead of them. So basically what this means is you heal them for a specific amount, and then you take that amount of damage in radiant damage. But we'll be able to heal a portion of it with one of our equipment, so the damage we take is going to be actually less than it actually says. And then for the spell here, again, we're just going to take protection for poison. You could also pick up the Thunderous Smite or any one of other these spells. It's up to you. Finally, at level 8, this is our last Paladin level. And here, we're just going to take Thunderous Smite. Again, it's a Paladin, so you can just mix and match these later on as much as you want. And then for our second feat, we're going to be finally taking Resilient into Constitution. What it does is increase your Constitution by 1 and gain proficiency in Constitution saving throws, like I mentioned before, which is going to be very powerful, especially once we get the advantage on Constitution saving throws armor. Now, at level 9, we would normally get our 3rd level spellcasting, which we have some nice spells, like we have the Blinding Smite, we have the Elemental Weapon, which we can cast it on our allies. We also get the Crusader's Mantle, and we get the Spirit Guardians and Warden of Vitality. Spirit Guardian is actually quite nice here. We could go with this, but what I decided to do, since we are fully trying to go for the support, we're gonna go Cleric. Reason being is if we go like Cleric, we'll be healing extra with our spells, but we also get free blast, so we can equip some other Paladin spells if we want. But mainly we want this for some of the Cleric abilities we'll unlock later on, and for some of the spells, of course. Now, for the Cleric cantrips, we namely want resistance and guidance. We didn't have it at this point. We can have guidance through an amulet, so we want to get a resistance and guidance so that we can buff our party members. Then for the other cantrip here, you could take Corpse Explosion, but since we have low wisdom, we don't really want any spells that require enemies to get saving throws or accuracy for us. So we could just pick up Produce Flame. We can cast this on ourselves as Shadowheart for Act 2, so that we emit a little light radius around us, so allies who don't have light on them, they can stand next to us for safety, so to say. We're going Life Domain, of course. Life Domain gives us the subtlest feature of your devotion empowers your healing spells. While casting a healing spell, the target regains additional hit points equal to the 2 plus the spell's level. Not too much of a big buff, but it's still a useful one. For the abilities, we can't really touch anything here. We just leave it as is. And then for the spells, so here we're going to pick up Healing Word. We didn't have Healing Word at this point. It's a nice one because as a bonus action, you can use it to pick up a fallen ally, or just give them a Blade Ward and Bless if you need to, if they are in a pickle. And then we're going to pick up Sanctuary. Now, we have the Protection from Evil and Good, and we have Shield of Faith already from our Paladin, so we don't really need this. We're just going to pick up the Sanctuary. Then at level 10, we collect level 2, we unlock Destroy Undead, we also unlock our Channel Divinity charges, and we get the Preserve Life. Now, this is going to synergize quite amazingly with our Paladin version of this, which is slightly weaker in healing in the healing area, but it's a bonus action large AoE heal. And this is an action large area heal, which is also a quite big heal. So we can combine those two if we really need to get our party up and running if they got beaten up during a big boss fight or whatever. This plus the Paladin one can get us all up and running, on top of giving all of us Bless and also Blade Ward. For the another spell that we can equip here, we could take any one of these other ones so that we can take some other paladin spells. For example, you could take Bless and you can take something else from the paladin, but we could also take Create to Destroy Water if you have a character that uses lightning or cold damage. So we're gonna go with that here. At level 11, we unlock our second level cleric spells. Now here is where we get some of the spells that we weren't able to get before, especially if you don't have a druid, bard, or a cleric. I think all of them have access to Calm Emotions and Enhanced Ability. At least I know for the bard and for the bard and cleric. But here, we could remove the last two spells we equipped and take Enhanced Ability. Enhanced Ability is quite important. It's an amazing supportive spell which gives you advantage on ability checks of a chosen ability. So outside of combat, it's going to be very, very useful for your character, either your locksmith or your lockpick or your the character that's going to be talking the most. You can give them basically a really good advantage. You could also pick up Warding Bond, which is going to make it so that the character you cast this on has resistance to all damage, and then whenever they take damage, you'll take the same amount of damage as well, but of course they take reduced damage. So you can help this. With this, you can help your squishier characters. We can take Calm Emotions, which is what we're gonna do here. Basically, humanoids can't be charmed, frightened, and become enraged. This is amazing because there are some enemies that love to frighten your party, and this is going to completely neutralize them. Same thing with Charmed. There is, if you visit the House of Hope, the Incubus there loves to charm your allies and then have them fight you. This can completely help you circumvent that. You also get protection from poison here if you want to, if you didn't pick it up for a paladin. We also get the Silent Sphere, which is a pretty nice one. If you're fighting the Gortash's turrets that spit out the thunder damage grenades, these spell can actually help you nullify those. And finally, at level 12, Cleric level 4, we get an additional cantrip. Here we can just pick up Blade Ward. Doesn't really matter or one of these you want to take. And now for the last cleric spell, you could also get less restoration here. You could get aid, but I'm gonna go with the Warding Bond, just so I have it for example, Gale. And then for our third and last feat, we're gonna go ability improvement +2 into charisma. And now this we want to increase our aura of protection, better paladin spellcasting. You could go with alert. This is what I originally went with, but then I thought +2 charisma will be better so that we get better aura of protection, because now the aura, if you go with +3 constitution saving throws from the constitution modifier, 4 proficiency, and +3 from the aura, that's 10. So we basically can't break concentration in any really situation unless enemies deal more than 22 damage to us, right? Because then how concentration spell works is if you take 22 damage, you have to roll half of that for the concentration saving throw, so 11, right? So all other rolls, so 20 and below, at 21 I think is as well, you roll just 10. So keep that in mind. Basically, you have unbreakable concentration now with this, and with the combination of our boots, we will not have to worry about being knocked prone. But anyway, that is it for the levels. I'm gonna see you in the equipment section. Alright, so here we are in the equipment section, so let's start with our headgear. Like the cleric or the ultimate support, we are going with the Vampira's Crown. Whenever we heal another, the wearer gains 1d6 hit points. Basically, we gain passive healing whenever we are healing our allies. For the cloak, you don't really need any cloaks for this character, it's not really necessary, but if you really want to, Cloak of Protection is great for armor classes saving throws, and Blur, or the Cloak of Displacement, which is basically just a cloak that grants you Blur, is also quite a nice one. For the armor, like the ultimate support, Ranger Cleric, we're going with the Dark Justicia Halfplate. Reason being, advantage on Constitution saving throw checks, so we don't need Warcaster with this character. We do get advantage on stealth checks while being obscured, but we don't really need to worry about it, and we get Sharp Edges, which we can cast on ourselves, but again, we don't really need to worry about that. Namely, we want this armor for the good armor class it has and the advantage on Constitution saving throws. Then for the early game alternative, we have the Spider Silk Armor. Same reason, advantage on Constitution saving throws, and we get +1 on stealth checks. Really, don't worry about that, we want Warcaster that's built into the armor. For the gloves, we have the Reviving Hands. When you heal a creature, it gains Blade Ward effect, and when you revive a creature, it gains the effects of Death Ward. And we get the Revivify spell once per long rest for free. Now, this is great because these gloves are actually upgrades of the Hellrider's Pride, even though they do the same thing, but the Reviving Hands can actually, if you heal yourself, you will give Blade Ward to yourself. So With the Hell Rider Sprite, that doesn't work. Basically, what this does is when you heal another creature, it gains resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. They basically, if you do it, it just shows them they have Blade Ward. So exactly the same gloves, except these are of course a direct upgrade. So you want to run these in Act 3. For the boots, we're going with the Boots of Striding. When you cast a spell that requires concentration, you gain 1 momentum, which is okay. It's 5 extra movement speed, not really too much of a big deal. But the second effect is amazing. While you're concentrating, you can get knocked prone or move against your will. This is going to basically make us now impossible to break concentration unless we take 22 or more damage. Right? We have to just roll terribly at that point. Because this now makes it so that enemies cannot make us slip, they cannot make us... They can throw us, they can push us, nothing. We are basically anchored down as long as we are concentrating. For the alternative, the Boots of Aid and Comfort. So the Boots of Aid and Comfort is what I use on the ultimate support Ranger Cleric. Because with that character, you don't really have the guaranteed 10 roll on concentration saving throws. So what these boots do is whenever you heal a creature or target, it gains 3 additional temporary hit points. So you can heal basically 3 HP extra with these whenever you heal something. But again, on this character, I think Boots of Training are much better. Then for Armlet, I went with the Pripyat of Wound Closure, just like the other support build. Whenever we are downed, we stabilize automatically, which is okay, but we don't really need to worry about that. But the second effect, whenever we are healed, you restore the maximum number of possible hit points. So whenever we are healed, for example, from our crown, from our headkeys, we gain 6 hit points. Or if we drink a potion of healing, we get 20 hit points, 40, 60, or 10. So this is quite amazing because, well, if this character is really wounded, we can just drink 1 potion and we are set. We are completely safe. For the early game, or before you get the cleric multi-class, I've been running the Silver Pendant, which gives us guidance basically whenever we can cast it as much as we want whenever we want. If you don't have a guidance character in your party, you can use this as a sort of makeshift guidance or support character with that in that case. For the rings, we went with the Whispering Promise. Whenever you heal a creature, it gains 1d4 bonus to attack rolls and saving throws. Basically, it gets blessed for 2 turns. And then lastly, the Ring of Salving. You restore 2 additional hit points every time you heal another creature. So we give them extra 2 hit points whenever they're healed, which is pretty useful. It's not too amazing, like, oh, you gain 20 extra hit points, but that is probably broken. Every bit of hit points actually helps. Since spells normally aren't really worth with healing characters with, but with this ring, it works on healing potions. There's that. For our weapons, I went with the Falar Aluve. Now, I think this is a pretty great supporting weapon, regardless if you use it as a, if you attack with it or not, because of the Shriek Melody. Right, Sing can give them a buff of 1d4 bonus to attack rolls and charisma, wisdom, and intelligence saving throws. If you really want, it's kind of like a different flavor of Bless, but what you really want to cast is the Shriek. Because what Shriek does is it gives enemies a 1d4 penalty to charisma, wisdom, and intelligence saving throws, and they also take 1d4 extra thunder damage. So what you can do is on your first turn you cast Bless, which lasts 10 turns, and then on your second turn you cast Falar Aluve Shriek for the extra damage and the penalties. So you can then buff your allies while you're debuffing your enemies, which is quite nice. It's quite a nice combination you can get there. Alternatively, you could run the Staff of Arcane Blessing like the other support build. What this does is basically your Bless grants an additional 1d4 saving throws and weapon attack rolls and 2d4 spell attack rolls. It basically doubles the effects of Bless, but only up to level 2 spells. If you cast a 3rd level Bless, it actually will just a standard Bless. It will not be the doubled one, so keep that in mind. For the shield, we went, of course, with the good old Safeguard Shield. Helps us with saving throws additionally. So now we roll a 11 on concentration saving throws. So now they need to deal even more damage to us to break our concentration. So yeah, all around a pretty good shield. It helps with pretty much every saving throw, of course. Like the, for example, Cleric Protection. For the ranged weapon, I went with Herald. Like the other support build as well, when you deal damage to a target with a ranged weapon, it must exceed a charisma saving throw or become Bane for 2 turns. What Bane does is basically the opposite of Bless. It gives a penalty instead of a bonus. For the alternatives, you would want other ranged weapons that give some sort of effect if you really want to shoot. For example, Darkfire Shortbow you could use to give haste to your allies, which is pretty useful. Since you have almost unbreakable concentration, they don't need to worry about becoming lethargic. And then Giant Breaker, similar to Herald, instead of Bane, it inflicts Reeling and there is no saving throw. You just need to hit, and then enemies have a penalty on attack rolls, -1 for every turn. So right off the bat, if you hit, they get a -2. And then for the Elixir, We're gonna be, I accidentally put the remedial potion here, but we want the elixir of heroism. What it does is gives us temporary hit points, but also we become blessed until long rest. So with this, you can then cast a first level bless, and then you can ignore yourself. You don't need to cast it on yourself. You can just cast it on your allies because you will permanently be blessed with this, well, for that long rest. Alright, so that is it for the equipment. There will not be a combat showcase for this character, as I don't think it's really necessary, because it's similar to the other support build. You just cast Bless, then you activate Falar Luve, and then you just go around throwing healing potions on your allies if you need to, or cast your healing spells, or just, if you really need to deal damage to something, you just go and whack him with the Divine Smite. So that is it for the build. I hope you enjoyed. I would appreciate it if you leave a like, comment, subscribe for more Baldur's Gate 3 content, and I'll see you in the next one.